What I'm about to tell you will change everything you think you know about the woman who wrote Eat, Pray, Love. Elizabeth Gilbert, the woman who taught millions to find happiness, almost became a murderer. Her victim, the woman she loved most in the world. This isn't fiction. This is her confession. In her new book, All the Way to the River, Gilbert admits she planned to kill her dying girlfriend to end both their suffering. But this story isn't about murder. It's about the most dangerous addiction of all, love addiction, and how it nearly destroyed the woman who preached self-love to the world. Stay with me for the next 15 minutes, and I'll show you the dark truth behind one of America's most beloved authors. Because what happened after Eat, Pray, Love will shock you to your core. If you know Elizabeth Gilbert, you know her as the inspirational author of Eat, Pray, Love, the woman who traveled the world to find herself and taught millions to do the same. She seemed to have it all figured out. But in 2025, Gilbert released All the Way to the River, and it shattered every assumption we had about her perfect life. This isn't another spiritual journey. This is a confession so raw, so devastating, that even her biggest fans are questioning everything. What I'm about to tell you will break your heart, but it might also save your life. Bruce Willis, the man who saved the world in Die Hard, is slowly disappearing. And his wife Emma is watching the man she loves vanish before her eyes, one memory at a time. This isn't a movie. This is real life. In her new book, The Unexpected Journey, Emma Heming Willis reveals the devastating truth about Bruce's dementia diagnosis and how it's destroying their family. But this story isn't just about losing Bruce Willis. It's about the 55 million families worldwide facing the same nightmare, and why Emma almost lost herself trying to save someone who's already gone. Stay with me for the next 15 minutes, and I'll show you the hidden reality of caregiving that no one talks about. Because what Emma reveals about dementia will change everything you think you know about love, loss, and letting go. If you know Bruce Willis, you know him as John McClane, the unstoppable action hero who always found a way to win. But behind the cameras, Bruce has been fighting a battle he can't win: frontotemporal dementia, or FTD. Emma Heming Willis just released The Unexpected Journey, and it's not another celebrity memoir. It's a raw, honest guide for the 470 million people worldwide who will become caregivers without any warning, any training, or any idea what they're about to face. Emma wrote the book she desperately needed when Bruce was diagnosed, a roadmap for surviving the most heartbreaking journey of your life. And what she reveals will shock you. Before I tell you what dementia really looks like in a family, I need to ask you something. Do you have aging parents? A spouse over 50? Anyone you love who's starting to seem different? If yes, comment yes, because this information could literally save your family. And smash that like button, because what I'm about to share about the early signs of dementia could help you catch it years before doctors do. Picture this: it's 2005. Bruce Willis is at the peak of his career. Emma Heming is a successful model who meets him at a gym and thinks nothing of it. She's engaged to someone else, living her own life. But Bruce told her trainer immediately, "I'm going to marry that girl one day." Classic Bruce Willis confidence, right? The man who never backs down, never gives up, always gets what he wants. They married in 2009, had 2 beautiful daughters. Emma thought she was living a fairy tale with a Hollywood legend. Bruce was everything: protective, funny, unpredictable, full of life. But around 2016, Emma started noticing changes. Small things at first. Bruce would forget conversations they'd just had. He'd repeat himself. His personality started shifting in ways that felt off. Emma writes, "At some point, our relationship began to feel off. There were crazy marital issues and subtle shifts in his personality." She thought it was a midlife crisis. Maybe marriage problems. Never did she imagine her husband's brain was literally dying. Frontotemporal dementia, FTD, is different from Alzheimer's. It attacks the parts of the brain that control personality, behavior, and language. The person you love changes fundamentally before your eyes, and there's no cure, no treatment, no hope. Bruce Willis, the man who could save everyone on screen, couldn't save himself. And Emma was about to learn the hardest truth of caregiving. You can't save someone from a disease that's designed to take them away piece by piece. The diagnosis came in 2022, but Emma says the real Bruce had been disappearing for years. What she reveals next about the early signs will terrify every family watching this video. Before I tell you the warning signs Emma wishes she'd recognized sooner signs that could help your family catch dementia early, hit that subscribe button and tell me. Have you noticed personality changes in someone you love? Because what Emma shares next might save their life. Emma reveals that Bruce's dementia didn't start with memory loss. It started with personality changes that everyone, including doctors, dismissed as normal aging or stress. Sign number 1, he became more impulsive. Bruce, who was always spontaneous, started making decisions that seemed completely out of character. Emma thought it was just Bruce being Bruce. Sign number 2, language problems. Bruce, whose career depended on memorizing scripts, started having trouble with words. He'd pause mid-sentence, searching for words that used to come easily. Sign number 3, and this is crucial, changes in empathy and social awareness. Bruce, who was always socially graceful, started saying inappropriate things, missing social cues, not reading the room. Here's what's terrifying. FTD typically strikes people in their 40s, 50s, and 60s, prime of life. Unlike Alzheimer's, which mainly affects memory, FTD changes who your loved one is at their core. Emma writes, I kept thinking this isn't the Bruce I married. Where did my husband go? But she was told by doctors that it was depression, stress, or just normal aging. For years. The average FTD patient waits 3.6 years for a correct diagnosis. That's 3.6 years of families thinking their loved one is just being difficult, lazy, or going through a phase. 3.6 years of precious time lost. Here's the part that will haunt you. Emma reveals that she spent months angry at Bruce for not trying hard enough to be the husband and father he used to be. She didn't know his brain was literally shrinking. FTD destroys brain cells in the frontal and temporal lobes, the areas that make you you. Your personality, your judgment, your ability to connect with others, all of it dies while your body stays healthy. Imagine watching the person you love most become a stranger. They look the same, but everything that made them who they were, their humor, their warmth, their love for you, it's just gone. Emma's story is happening to families everywhere. Every 65 seconds, someone in America develops dementia. That means while you're watching this video, someone just got the diagnosis that will change their family forever. Before I tell you how Emma learned to survive this journey and the mistakes that almost destroyed her, I want you to share this video with anyone who's caring for an aging loved one. Drop a heart in the comments if you know a caregiver who needs support. Because what Emma teaches about self-care while caregiving could literally save someone's life, including yours. Emma reveals the part of caregiving no one prepares you for. You start to disappear too. She writes, I was so focused on Bruce's needs that I forgot I had any of my own. 61% of caregivers report being overwhelmed. 40% suffer from depression. 70% report their physical health has declined. Emma was all of these statistics, drowning in guilt and exhaustion. She admits, I felt guilty for missing the old Bruce. I felt guilty for being tired. I felt guilty for wanting a normal conversation with my husband. I felt guilty for still being healthy when he wasn't. But here's the part that broke my heart. Emma was trying to be everything to everyone. Bruce's caregiver, their daughter's rock, the public face of strength, all while grieving the loss of her partner who was still physically present. She describes it as ambiguous loss, mourning someone who's still alive but no longer themselves. You can't move on because they're still there, but you can't get them back because they're already gone. Emma learned the hardest lesson of caregiving. If you don't take care of yourself, you can't take care of anyone else. She had to learn to set boundaries, ask for help, and this was revolutionary for her, put her own needs first sometimes. She writes, I fully recognize the privilege of my position, having resources for professional help, but caregiving is caregiving. Whether you have support or not, the emotional toll remains. Emma's breakthrough came when she realized something profound. She wasn't losing Bruce. She was learning to love a different version of him. She writes, I had to grieve the Bruce I married to fall in love with the Bruce who remained. That's not giving up. That's the deepest kind of love there is. Emma found strength in community, connecting with other FTD families, joining support groups, and most importantly, teaching her daughters that it's okay to feel sad, angry, and confused about their dad's changes. She's incredibly honest about how dementia affects kids. They're watching their father disappear too, and they need permission to grieve that loss while still loving who he is now. Emma's turned her pain into purpose. She's become an advocate for FTD awareness, sharing resources, fighting the stigma, and most importantly, giving other caregivers permission to take care of themselves. Her most powerful message: you are not responsible for outcomes you cannot control. You are only responsible for showing up with love one day at a time. So what can we learn from Emma Heming Willis's journey? First, caregiving is one of life's greatest challenges, but it's also one of the greatest gifts you can give someone you love. Second, taking care of yourself isn't selfish when you're a caregiver. It's essential. You can't pour from an empty cup, and burnout helps no one. Third, you're not alone. There are resources, support groups, and people who understand exactly what you're going through. Emma's book provides practical tools, but more importantly, it provides hope. If you're a caregiver, share this video to let other caregivers know they're not alone. If you know a caregiver, share this to show them you see their sacrifice. Comment below if Emma's story resonated with you. Emma Heming Willis is watching the love of her life disappear, but she's also discovering strength she never knew she had. She's learning that love doesn't end when someone changes, it just transforms. Because sometimes the greatest act of love isn't holding on, it's learning to love someone exactly as they are, even when they're not who they used to be. Remember, if you're caring for someone with dementia, you're a hero, and heroes need support too. At the center of this story is Raya Elias, a musician, filmmaker, and former heroin addict who became Gilbert's best friend, then lover, then the person who almost destroyed them both. Before I tell you about Gilbert's darkest moments, I need to ask you something. Have you ever loved someone so much it felt like addiction? Have you ever stayed in a toxic relationship because leaving felt impossible? If yes, drop "guilty" in the comments, because this story is about to get very real. And smash that like button, because what I'm about to reveal about love addiction will make you question every relationship you've ever had. The story starts in 2000. Elizabeth Gilbert, already a successful author, walks into a salon and meets Raya Elias, a Lebanese-American hairdresser with a punk rock past and enough charisma to light up New York City. Raya wasn't just any hairdresser. She was a recovering heroin addict, a filmmaker, a musician, and according to Gilbert, a legend to all who knew her. They became instant best friends, the kind of friendship that feels like finding your other half. Raya had this theory about friendship levels. Most people are just your Fifth Avenue friends' surface-level professional contacts. But if you're really lucky, you find someone who will walk all the way to the river with you, someone who knows everything, who you call when you have nowhere else to turn. Gilbert and Raya were all the way to the river friends. For 16 years, they were inseparable. Gilbert was married, Raya had her own relationships, but their bond was unbreakable. Until 2016, when everything changed. Raya was diagnosed with pancreatic and liver cancer, terminal cancer. As Gilbert sat in that hospital room, watching her best friend face death, she realized something that would destroy her marriage and nearly destroy her life. She wasn't just losing her best friend. She was losing the love of her life, and she had never even admitted it to herself. What happened next shocked everyone who knew them. Gilbert left her husband, declared her love for Raya, and they had a commitment ceremony, all while Raya was dying of cancer. But this isn't a beautiful love story. This is where the addiction began. Before I tell you how love addiction nearly turned Gilbert into a killer, hit that subscribe button and tell me in the comments, have you ever made a life-changing decision based on someone else's timeline? Because what Gilbert did next will make you understand why love can be the most dangerous drug of all. Here's what Gilbert confesses in her book, and this is where it gets brutal. The moment she and Raya became romantic partners, everything went to hell. Raya, who had been clean from heroin for over a decade, relapsed. Hard. She started using cocaine, alcohol, pain medication, anything she could get her hands on. And Gilbert became addicted to something even more dangerous. Gilbert became addicted to Raya herself. Not the healthy kind of love, the obsessive, codependent, all-consuming kind that therapists call love addiction. She couldn't function without Raya's approval. She lost herself completely in trying to save someone who was determined to self-destruct. Listen to how Gilbert describes it. I was addicted to the chaos. I was addicted to the crisis. I was addicted to being needed by someone who was falling apart. Does this sound familiar to anyone? Love addiction is real, and it's devastating. It's when you mistake intensity for intimacy, drama for passion, and suffering for devotion. Gilbert thought she was being a devoted partner. Actually, she was enabling Raya's destruction while destroying herself. But here's the shocking part. As Raya got sicker and more addicted, Gilbert's behavior became more extreme. She started lying to friends and family. She isolated herself. She made Raya's addiction her full-time job. And then, in the most disturbing confession in the book, Gilbert admits she started fantasizing about murder-suicide. She wanted to kill Raya to end her suffering, then kill herself. She even researched methods online. Let me be clear about what's happening here. The woman who wrote Eat, Pray, Love, the woman who taught millions about self-love and finding inner peace, was planning to commit murder because she couldn't handle losing the person she was addicted to. This isn't about cancer being tragic. This is about what happens when love becomes a drug and withdrawal feels like death. Gilbert wasn't just grieving her partner's illness. She was going through withdrawal from her addiction to chaos, crisis, and being needed. Studies show that love addiction activates the same brain pathways as cocaine addiction. The highs are euphoric, the lows are suicidal, and like any addiction, it makes you do things you never thought possible. Gilbert's murder fantasies weren't about mercy. They were about control. When you're addicted to someone, their independence, even their right to die on their own terms, becomes a threat to your supply. Before I tell you how this story ends and whether Gilbert ever got the help she needed, I want you to think about your own relationships. Have you ever felt like you couldn't live without someone? Have you ever stayed in chaos because peace felt boring? Share this video with someone who needs to understand the difference between love and addiction. The wake-up call came when Gilbert realized she was becoming dangerous. One night, as she watched Raya shoot up cocaine while dying of cancer, Gilbert had a moment of clarity that probably saved both their lives. She joined Sex and Love Addicts Anonymous. Yes, that's a real thing. She got a sponsor, worked the 12 steps, and for the first time in her life, faced the truth about her addiction to chaos and codependency. Here's what recovery taught Gilbert: loving someone doesn't mean sacrificing yourself on the altar of their addiction. Real love sometimes means walking away, even when they're dying. In one of the most painful scenes in the book, Gilbert makes the decision to physically separate from Raya during her final months. Not because she stopped loving her, but because their relationship had become toxic for both of them. Raya died in January 2018, alone in a hospital room. Gilbert wasn't there because her sponsor had told her that being present for Raya's death would trigger her own relapse into love addiction. Can you imagine? Missing the death of the person you love most because your addiction to them was so strong that being there would destroy you both. That's the reality of love addiction. But here's where Gilbert's story becomes hopeful. After Raya's death, instead of relapsing into another addictive relationship, Gilbert did something radical. She stayed alone. She stayed in therapy. She kept going to meetings. She learned to have a relationship with herself that wasn't based on crisis or chaos. For the first time in her adult life, Gilbert discovered what healthy love actually feels like. She writes, "I had to learn that love without drama is not boring love, it's sustainable love. Love without crisis is not passionless love, it's peaceful love." Recovery from love addiction has a notoriously low success rate because our culture celebrates exactly the kind of behavior Gilbert describes. We think jealousy means passion. We think suffering means devotion. We think chaos means excitement. Look at our movies, our songs, our social media posts about relationships. We glorify the exact behaviors that destroy lives. Gilbert's story forces us to ask, how many of us are addicted to love without even knowing it? So what can we learn from Elizabeth Gilbert's darkest chapter? First, addiction doesn't discriminate. It doesn't matter how successful, wealthy, or spiritually evolved you are. Addiction will find your weakness and exploit it. Second, love addiction is real addiction. If you can't be happy without someone, if you lose yourself in relationships, if you mistake intensity for intimacy, you might need help, and there's no shame in getting it. Third, real love doesn't require you to set yourself on fire to keep someone else warm. Real love is sustainable, peaceful, and allows both people to grow. If this story resonated with you, share it with someone who needs to hear it. Comment below if you recognize any love addiction patterns in your own life. Subscribe for more stories about recovery, healing, and the courage to tell the truth. Elizabeth Gilbert went from planning murder to finding peace. She went from being addicted to chaos to creating sustainable love. If she can recover from the deepest, darkest addiction, so can you. Because the first step to healing isn't finding the right person to love. It's learning to love yourself enough to choose peace over chaos, health over intensity, and recovery over addiction.